Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. On this week's show, I have a very special guest. My guest is Mr. Justin Allan Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery is a nurse practitioner who has started multiple practices and then had the entrepreneurial spirit to take his knowledge and wisdom and actually create continuing education courses for nurse practitioners. And then he stepped it up again and teaches other nurse practitioners and professionals how to start their own continuing education courses for education, for passive income, and to help the profession grow. I hope you enjoy my interview with Mr. Justin Montgomery. Welcome to Season 3 of For the Love of Chiropractic. Season 1 has 60 episodes of practice management tips to help you build the best practice possible. Season 2, 3 keys of my success, 50 interviews with the most successful chiropractors from around the world. Season 3, resources for your success. So let's listen up and learn how to build a great business. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Justin Montgomery by phone. Justin, are you there?
Yes.
It is so good to be chatting with you. So I know you and I went back and forth a few times, and we had a great pre-record conversation a couple weeks back. I am super excited to hear what you've been doing and how you recommend people do things that they do. Specifically, I know from feedback that I get on the podcast, really, I have 3 groups of listeners. There's the student chiropractor that's just about to graduate, and I put them in the same group as the very young chiropractors who are new in practice. And then the second group is docs who have been in practice for a while and are actively looking to build and grow their practice. And then the third group, obviously, is the docs who've been doing it for a long time, and they just love hearing the information, and it reminds them of things they know and some other things that they had forgotten. So those are the 3 broad groups. And the things that I found so fascinating about you from our pre-chat, that the information that you present actually applies and can be used by all 3 of those groups. So that's why I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. Specifically, your information of how you teach doctors to be the go-to expert and create online courses, I find fascinating. How did you get into that?
Yeah. Well, to let everyone know, first off, I am a nurse practitioner, so I'm not a chiropractor, but what I teach is applicable to really any kind of medical professional. So it doesn't really matter what type you are, but it's very specific to chiropractors. So as a nurse practitioner, I owned a couple practices myself, mostly men's health, wellness type practices. And as I built those, I learned a lot of valuable skills doing it. And so I started a blog in 2019 called The Elite Nurse Practitioner. And in this blog, I essentially just wrote articles talking about how nurse practitioners can start their own practice. That was basically it. I didn't really have any kind of goal with it. And so I just wrote these articles, and some of them went kind of viral within the nurse practitioner community. And I started, building this audience. And people basically just asked me, "Hey, can you teach me actually how to start like a men's health clinic or an IV infusion clinic? Can you actually give me the step-by-step instructions on how to do it?" So I started doing some consulting, just consulting with people, charging like $500 an hour. And, while that's good money, it's still, at the end of the day, I'm still shitting my time for dollars. So basically just like, I'm just going to create a course. Let me just create a course and put what I'm teaching people during these consulting sessions. Let me just put this down on paper, basically. Let me create a PowerPoint. Let me create a lecture. Let me just create a basic video course. And let me put it out to my audience and see if it resonates. And so I created a course on how to open up a men's health clinic. And I sent it out there to my audience, and I made like $50,000 in 7 days. So I was like,
That's fabulous.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm on to something here. I just made more money than I do in an entire month and a half at my men's health clinic. So I was like, I'm gonna really double down on this. So over the next 3 years, in collaboration with some other professionals as well, because you only know so much basically. I created 50 courses, teaching nurse practitioners, chiropractors, MDs, DOs, whatever, on how to start a variety of different kinds of cash-based practices. And just every single month, the income just exponentially snowballed, because I'd create one course, sell a lot of them, and then they would continue to sell. Then I'd create another course, sell a lot of them, and they would continue to sell. So the income just basically exponentially increases and just compounds. And by the end of year 2, we were at $2.5–3 million net profit, and it was just me and a virtual assistant.
So basic rule of business: keep the overhead really low, and the rest will work.
Exactly. The only expense was marketing the thing. That's it. So the margins were 85–90%. I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I scaled it, and I eventually just had an exit event with it. I was like, I'm shaking out while it gets good, basically. And had an 8-figure exit event, and was able to retire at 39 as a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, which is not something you typically hear, which is fantastic. So I really want to jump into some of the more specific things, because you said you've taught lots of different professions, how to do this, because again, the concept of business, business is business, and healthcare is healthcare. So it makes sense, and you've clearly crystallized it in such a simple way that it just works. So I guess my first question is, so when you build a CE course that frees your time and fuels your purpose, you've already touched on that, but I want to ask you personally. So now you're retired at 39. So what's next?
Well, what's next is, I just kind of took a 2-year sabbatical. Making more money just off of the interest and dividends alone, just from my investments, from the money that I made. I making more than I could spend, and you can only fish, you can only play so much golf. Like, there's you can only do so much of that stuff.
Sure.
There's only so many vacations you can go on.
Yep.
People don't realize that once you retire, if your body's still functioning great, you can still do a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, though, it does get redundant. So you kind of lose some purpose. So I started a new business called ProCourseStart, where I teach people how to start the CE businesses. That's really where my passion is now, because teaching people how to start medical practices, while it's a good business to start, you're still exchanging your time for money with it. There's still liability. There's still risk associated with it. There's still headaches and employees and patients, et cetera. So now my purpose is to teach people how to start actual businesses that are very scalable, are partially passive in nature, something that can actually really move the dial in your life. So that's kind of where my passion is.
I love that.
Shifted.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. I love it. So chiropractors in general seem to break down into 2 categories. They're the ones who recognize the whole "I'm trading time for money" thing. And, so to that part of the audience, how to start to get away from that. And they talk about, hiring associates to leverage their time and get themselves away from the treatment areas, the adjusting rooms. And so that's one side. The other group are the ones who are passionate about this thing called chiropractic, love getting their hands on people, love doing the adjustments themselves. And yeah, they'll have other doctors, they're training, helping to build the bigger practice. And I think what's so fascinating about what you do is the building the CE courses actually speaks to both of those audiences. So here's my question. How do you become the go-to expert in the profession?
Yeah, I agree with you. So you have to essentially first really identify what it is that you are good at. I'm not a chiropractor, so I don't know a whole lot about the chiropractor space. I've been to chiropractors before, so I have a very, very, very basic understanding.
Sure.
But like, I would imagine that there's some very routine kind of stuff that every chiropractor knows, right?
Sure. Neck pain,
That's
back
the
pain,
stuff
sciatica, right? The herniated disc. Okay.
Yeah, right. Like that stuff, pretty much every chiropractor learns it in school. And it's just kind of the basic foundational knowledge, right? You're not going to make money teaching that, okay? What you have to do is you have to identify what it is that you are truly good at that is unique and different than what most other chiropractors know and what they can do, right? So most medical professionals are very good at one thing. Like they're naturally talented and good at one thing, maybe a handful of things, but one kind of real focus they're very, very good at. And so what you need to do, you have to identify what that is. What is something that colleagues, students, etc., ask you about? Like, do they come to you asking you questions about blank, right? If they do, then blank is what you should probably be teaching. What's something that you're very good at, something like the back of your hand, something that you don't have to really try at it.
Mm-hmm.
But for others, they have to try at it. So how can you explain it in fifth grade kind of language to simplify it? You can do that. You have an amazing CE business.
That's really cool. So now as we're talking, it occurs to me, so you're talking about, becoming the expert in the profession for as a chiropractor to other chiropractors. It seems to me that, and again, you're the expert, that there could be an opportunity, to be the expert chiropractor on neck and shoulder issues, and then market that CE course to, for example, dentists and dental hygienists who are required to do CE work. And because of the biomechanics of the way they work with patients, and every chiropractor knows this. I mean, so many dentists and dental hygienists, dental assistants come in for chiropractic care because they have this chronic neck and upper back and shoulder pain. So creating a course to the dentist, for example, would begin to, you'd have that passive CE income from the dental profession. And in your area, it's like, oh, you're in Dallas, Texas, and you're doing this. You must be the guy.
100%. Like you hit a critical nail on the head, basically. Like, think outside the box here, right? You don't have to teach other people in your profession. You can, and you should, but there are many other ways that you can bridge the knowledge gaps between professions. So if you feel like you don't have something truly, specialized in sort of information that that specialty that you're really good at, if you're just more of a generalist,
mm-hmm.
then you can absolutely translate that information and teach either other medical professionals, teach the general public, for sure. So, like, as an example, I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been trained in the nursing medical model, basically. So, what an MD does is, basically what I do. So, we receive no education at all about any kind of manipulation, massage, treating back pain, neck pain. All we do, if you come in with sciatica or whatever, we give you a shot of dexamethasone and say you're on your way. We do nothing else, right?
Sure.
So, yeah. So can you teach nurse practitioners, PAs, MDs, DOs, whatever? Can you teach other people how to do some of the chiropractic stuff? That's, and make sure it's still within their scope of practice, obviously, but can you teach other professionals things that And I would say there's a lot of chiropractors out there that 100% could, because I've watched chiropractors on YouTube who are really good at a variety of different things, even outside of just physical manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so you just got to think outside the box, right? What are you really good at? Maybe what you're really good at isn't necessarily going to be valuable to chiropractors, but it could be super valuable to, like you said, maybe dentists. Who knows?
So you just said something that sparked another question for me. You talked about, seeing things on other parts of social media. And you had mentioned in the first chat that you and I had. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how social media followers don't equal sales / new patients or customers. So what actually works?
Yeah. Okay. So social media definitely does work. Okay. And it's definitely one of the arms of a CE business that you shouldn't neglect. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what really scales a CE business is just building an audience. And you want to build that audience off of social media as much as you possibly can, because unfortunately, social media, they're in charge of whenever you are on there. It is not a free platform whatsoever. It's really a dictatorship. They can do what they want. They can ban your account whenever they want for anything you say. And so, I mean, they can, right?
Right.
So,
it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. You're not going to change it. So just accept it, just accept it. So you want to get people into your email list. You want to get people into your personal private ecosystem, because that way you can market to them, you can talk to them, you can say whatever you want, and because they're your asset now, not social media's asset. So the way I look at it is, and the way I teach people when they start a CE business, is that you use social media to extract potential customers from. You basically just extract the leads from social media and you put them into your personal ecosystem. So you use ecosystem as more or less top of the funnel in terms of like marketing goes. It's just top of the funnel. You extract people from it and you get them into your ecosystem. Typically within your ecosystem, that's when you sell them on your course, your mastermind, your membership, whatever it may be. So unfortunately, social media is kind of a necessary evil.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it without social media. You can. With the Elite Nurse Practitioner, approximately 50% of our traffic was simply just organic from people searching stuff on Google.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's completely outside of social media, right? But the other 50% more or less could be tracked back to social media at some point. So it is a necessary evil, but especially if you want to scale a business the right way.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Now, when you say scale it the right way, there's an old business philosophy of starting with the end in mind. So I'm guessing that you would say you should have some idea where you want this thing to go, as opposed to just, oh, hey, I think I'll try this and see what happens. Or no.
Yeah. Well, there's two models really here if you want to, I mean, if you want to just create a little side income, make an extra $10,000 a month and not really have any kind of grand scheme of growing it, then sure, you can do that. That's actually relatively pretty easy to do. But if you want to scale this thing into a real business, so with ProCourseStart within our private mastermind, what I teach people is I teach people how to scale this thing. I teach them how to start a real business, something, set it up the right way at the beginning so it can easily scale. If you just put together a quick little course, a little sales page and that sort of a thing, you can make some great side money, and that's fine. You can, I teach you how to do that as well. But if you're wanting to more or less develop a lifestyle that is location independent, that is fairly partially passive in nature, then you want to build the business in a way that it scales and that it grows so it works for you versus you working for it, right? I mean, with a chiropractic practice, you're working for it. You're self-employed. You can consider yourself an entrepreneur, but at the end of the day, how scalable is it? And so in a CE business, it's infinitely scalable because it's digital, and so requires very little employees. So if you want to create a business to where it can generate 7 figures plus a year, then you want to make sure you create it the right way. And that's what I teach people when they join our mastermind. If that's what you want. Some people don't want that, and that's fine.
Sure. Oh, okay. So you've said it a couple times, and obviously you will, as we round out the podcast in a few minutes, because we're starting to run out of time. What would you say the basic steps are, you said it has to be built right. So what are the basic steps that someone needs to go through? I'm not talking about the details, but in general, what does that look like?
Yeah, so think of a CE business as same thing as building a house, basically. The foundation of it is the most critical component of building a house. Without a foundation, an appropriate foundation, the house is just going to crumble when you start building on it. So the foundation of a CE business is developing a rock solid value proposition and mission. And by that, I mean, what's the value you're proposing to the world? What problem are you actually solving? You really need to identify that and actually write it down, because your entire CE business is built around that. And if you don't have a crystal clear value proposition and mission statement, then you're going to just be floating around. And I know it sounds very cliche, business guru book kind of stuff, but it really is very important. So you have to make sure that your idea is rock solid, validate it, use tools like ChatGPT or whatever, use tools, validate the idea, ensure that there's not a lot of competition, ensure that it's not saturated. Once you validate it, once you come up with a great idea, at that point, it's building the course. You don't got to build anything crazy here. You don't have to have a high production budget. PowerPoint slides and recording a lecture over it and making a video and then uploading it to a course hosting platform is sufficient. That's all you got to do. And then, you got to create a landing page, a sales page, a basic website, and then promote it. If I could summarize it up, that's the very high level summary of how to do it.
Man, Justin, I got to tell you, you just explained that as if you were explaining it to a fifth grader. That was beautifully simple and elegant. But anybody and everybody can follow that. I'm sitting here listening, like, yeah, that sounds really easy. And I know that the devil is always in the detail. Because one thing is like, oh, well, I'll do it this way instead. No, that won't get it done. And I'm sure that that's exactly what you teach, in your courses. So tell me a little bit more about your company. What are the ways that people come to work with you? Because it sounds like you have a couple different options.
Yeah, so I did have an evergreen kind of course product where I just kind of had this course that you could buy that would kind of guide you step by step on how to do it yourself. It's about 16 hours long. It's called the ProCourseStart Blueprint. So if you're more of a DIY kind of person, you can check that out. It's about $1,000, but it's literally a blueprint on how to create a 7-8 figure CE business. So there's that option. But the option that most of our clients use is our mastermind, because you get mentorship from me through Q&A calls. It's a lot more hands-on. You can ask me questions. I respond within typically 12 hours on the private message board. Plus there's bi-weekly Q&A calls, so on Sundays and Tuesdays. So that's where the variety of our clients, that's where most of our clients use the actual mastermind. It's a little more expensive, but it's a worthwhile investment, because I will help you validate the idea. And, if I think that your idea sucks, I'm just going to tell you. I will just, I'll be very blunt with you. I've actually had someone ask for a refund one time because they didn't like my response to their idea. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. Like, you're paying me to help you, and I'm helping you out here. Right. So if you want honest feedback, someone who is, impartial, a third set of eyes, that's kind of where the mastermind comes in. So super excited about that. I've really developed some pretty solid relationships in the mastermind. I've helped quite a few people actually get their CE businesses up and running. One of our clients has actually scaled the CE business very, very quickly. They followed all the steps. They did everything right. And within 8 months, they launched their first course in the spring. And by the end of the year, this was 2025, by the end of the year, they hit $1 million gross revenue in just like 8 months. Yeah. They just, right idea, right time. They did it the exact right way. And so it's very, very possible. You just have to make sure you just have a really good idea and you're solving a real problem.
All right.
That's what we help you.
That brings me to my two final questions. Number one, so what is a typical timeline for somebody to do something like this? Yeah, obviously there are
Yeah.
rock stars who do it in a weekend. Well, man, maybe not a weekend, but you know what I mean. And then the
Yeah,
people who
yeah, yeah.
drag their feet that 5 years, it still hasn't happened. So what's typical?
Typical timeline is most people from start to finish, most people will have their CE business up and running in about 4 months.
Oh, okay.
That's about average. Yeah. Now there are people who are just, unnatural essentially, and they'll get it done in 3 days.
Right.
They have nothing, they have nothing else to do, I guess,
Right.
but if you want to do it the right way, if you want to set up a business to where it's set up in a way to where it can grow, it'll take you about 4 months. If you want to just get a quick course up and running, a sales page and a quick website, using AI tools, you can do it in 30 days easy. But if you want to do it the right way, 3 or 4 months is about average. And then I'll also say that for the first real profits to start coming in, typically the first month, you don't really make a whole lot. It's usually between months 3 and 6 post-launch is when you really start to see the momentum. So to answer your question a little bit of a higher level, you should expect 6 to 8 months before you really start seeing it to turn over a profit, basically.
Gotcha. I love that. All right. And sadly, our time is virtually out, which brings me to my last question. If someone has listened to this and gone, oh my God, I need this guy. I absolutely want to do this. How do they find you? How do they get in touch with you? What do they do?
Yeah, so, you can go to our website, ProCourseStart.com. There's a form you can fill out and all that kind of stuff. But if you're serious about it, just email me. I much would rather actually communicate with you, talk with you over a couple emails, just to ensure that I think that your idea is solid before you decide to invest the money into the mastermind and the education on how to do this. So I would prefer you just email me and just literally give me a brief, rundown of who you are, what it is that you're thinking about doing, and I will let you know if I think this is worth your while or not. I've made my money, so if I don't think you're a right fit, I'm not going to try to sell you on it. I'll just be honest with you. So just email me. Yeah, Justin at ProCourseStart.com. That's it.
That was my question. So what is the email?
Yeah.
Justin Montgomery, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time, your wisdom, your knowledge. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, and I will look forward to speaking with you at some point in the future.
Yeah, no, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.